The night sky above Earth, once a tranquil canvas of distant stars, was now marred by an ominous presence. Enormous alien warships hovered above, their immense forms casting long shadows across the planet. The vessels were as dark as the void, with surfaces that shimmered like obsidian, shifting and pulsating with an eerie energy. Their arrival was not just an invasion. It was a message, a warning. Humanity's time as the dominant force on Earth had come to an end. The Dominion, a vast empire from the farthest reaches of the galaxy, had arrived. Captain Dylan Harper stood at the helm of the United Earth Defense Fleet flagship, the Titan's Wrath, his eyes fixed on the massive holoscreen that displayed the alien ship's encroachment into Earth's atmosphere. The crew around him moved in tense silence, their faces pale with unease. The message had been received loud and clear. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the galaxy's most feared empire had come to claim Earth. On the screen, a transmission flickered to life. The figure that appeared was not just another alien. It was Empress Veshra, the supreme ruler of the Vorkan Dominion. Her appearance was enough to send a chill through the room. The Empress was a towering figure, her armor like exoskeleton gleaming with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to shift with her every movement. Her yellow eyes locked onto Captain Harper's, exuding a sense of power and dominance. Her voice, smooth and commanding, filled the room. "Humans, your world stands on the brink of annihilation," she said, her words cutting through the air like a blade. "We have come to claim what is ours. Kneel before the Vorkan Dominion, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be nothing but ashes drifting through the void of space." Captain Harper's grip tightened around the console as the transmission continued. Empress Veshra's words were not empty threats. The Vorkan Dominion was known across the galaxy as one of the most terrifying and ruthless empires. They had crushed civilizations, erased entire species from existence, and now they had set their sights on Earth. But Harper was not one to yield easily. He had spent his entire career defending Earth from threats, alien and human alike, and he was not about to allow this alien empire to take his home without a fight. The tension in the bridge was palpable. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what to expect. But Harper stood tall, a defiant fire in his eyes. His voice was steady as he spoke. "We will not kneel. If you want this planet, you'll have to fight for it." There was a pause, and for a moment, Harper wondered if his words had been heard at all. Empress Veshra's gaze remained fixed on him, her expression unreadable. Then she tilted her head slightly, a smirk forming at the corner of her lips. "I expected defiance," she said, her voice filled with an almost amused tone. "But I wonder, is it bravery or is it foolishness?" Captain Harper didn't flinch. "Call it whatever you want," he replied, his voice unwavering. "But humanity doesn't break so easily." Empress Veshra chuckled softly, her voice echoing through the room. "Very well, human," she said, her tone shifting from playful to deadly serious. "Let us test that claim." The transmission flickered, and suddenly the holoscreen shifted from her imposing image to a view of space. A massive Vorkan warship appeared, its sleek design looming over the Earth, its energy core beginning to glow with an ominous intensity. "They're charging their main cannon, sir," an officer called out urgently. Captain Harper's jaw tightened. He knew the destructive power of the Vorkan warships. One hit from their main cannon wouldn't just take out a ship. It could obliterate an entire city, perhaps even more. Without hesitation, he barked orders to his crew. "Activate planetary defenses, now. All ships prepare for countermeasures." The fleet sprang into action. The United Earth Defense Fleet, a coalition of nations that had come together to protect the planet, prepared for battle. Human warships powered up their shields, missile systems locked onto targets, and energy cannons hummed with deadly power, ready to retaliate. The Earth was not defenseless, but the odds were stacked against them. Just as the first salvo was about to be launched, the Vorkan warship halted. The energy it had been gathering dissipated into the void. A new message appeared on the screen, this time from Empress Veshra herself. She was smiling, a look of amusement playing across her features. "There is another way," she said, her voice dripping with confidence. "A warrior's way." Captain Harper narrowed his eyes. "Speak," he demanded. The screen changed again, and this time, Empress Veshra's figure appeared in full. The alien queen stepped forward, her presence dominating the screen. "I propose a duel," she announced, her voice filled with a chilling finality. "You and I, one-on-one. The fate of Earth will be decided by combat. If you win, your species remains free. If I win, your people will kneel before the Vorkan Dominion." The bridge went silent. Every officer around Captain Harper could sense the weight of the decision he now had to make. A duel with the empress of an empire that had crushed countless civilizations. The very idea seemed insane. And yet, Harper's mind worked quickly, calculating the risks. "I accept," he said after a moment of tense silence, his voice resolute. The crew exchanged uncertain glances, but Harper's decision was final. The fate of Earth now rested on a single battle, a battle between him and the most powerful being the galaxy had ever known. As the transmission ended, Captain Harper stood in the center of the bridge, his mind racing. The Vorkan Dominion had given him a choice: fight or surrender. He had chosen to fight, but he knew that the odds were against him. Empress Veshra was a formidable opponent, far stronger and faster than any human he had ever faced. Yet, despite the overwhelming power of the Vorkan forces, Harper felt something stir within him, a quiet confidence. Humanity had always been resilient. It had always found a way to survive, to adapt, to rise above the odds. And in this moment, Harper knew that this wasn't just about him. It was about Earth, about the future of humanity. He turned to his officers. "Prepare for the duel," he ordered. "We've got 6 hours until the battle begins." As the crew scrambled to prepare, Harper stepped away from the holoscreen and made his way to his private quarters. He needed to focus, to train. He couldn't afford to rely on brute strength. He would have to outthink Empress Veshra, use her overconfidence against her. He had 6 hours to prepare for the hardest fight of his life. In the silence of his quarters, Captain Harper began to plan. The fate of Earth depended on him, and he would not fail. The hours leading up to the duel felt like days, as Captain Dylan Harper prepared for what was surely going to be the most dangerous battle of his life. Every thought in his mind was consumed with the enormity of what lay ahead. The looming presence of the Vorkan Dominion above Earth, the towering alien warships blocking out the sky, and the figure of Empress Veshra, supreme ruler of the empire, still haunted his thoughts. She had issued a challenge, one-on-one combat, and the fate of Earth would be determined by a single brutal confrontation. Victory would mean freedom, but defeat would spell Earth's submission to the ruthless forces of the Dominion. Captain Harper stood alone in the training room aboard the Titan's Wrath, his mind and body preparing for the duel that would take place within hours. The simulation program he had initiated projected a 3D hologram of Empress Veshra. Her figure was towering, her bioorganic armor pulsating with a terrifying energy that seemed alive. As the hologram moved, Harper analyzed each step, each motion, calculating the best ways to counter her attacks. He couldn't afford to make a single mistake. One wrong move and Earth would be at the mercy of the Dominion. But in the back of his mind, Captain Harper knew that this duel was more than just a test of physical strength. It was a test of strategy, of humanity's resolve. The Vorkan warriors, and especially Empress Veshra, were known for their sheer power and speed. They were trained from birth to be the galaxy's most deadly species, and their prowess in combat was unparalleled. But humanity had something they didn't: adaptability. Harper stopped his training simulation and took a deep breath. As a soldier, he was used to combat, used to fighting the enemy on the battlefield. But this was different. This was a fight against an alien queen, a being who could destroy entire civilizations with a single blow. And yet, the defiance in him remained unbroken. If there was one thing humanity had always had, It was the ability to endure, to fight back when all seemed lost. The clock was ticking. The time had finally arrived. The duel was set to take place in the heart of the Vorkan warship, a monstrous vessel that seemed to hum with an eerie organic energy. The walls of the ship were alive with bioluminescent growths, as though the ship itself were a living organism. The air was thick, metallic, with a faint tang of something foreign, something predatory. It was a world far removed from Earth's familiar surroundings, and Captain Harper could feel the weight of its strange, hostile atmosphere pressing down on him. As he stepped off the shuttle and into the landing bay of the Vorkan flagship, his eyes immediately locked onto the Vorkan warriors standing in formation. They were towering beings, taller and more menacing than any human soldier, their bodies covered in dark bioorganic plating that reflected the low light. Their eyes, yellow and cold, followed Harper's every movement, assessing him with curiosity, amusement, and perhaps even a touch of contempt. At the far end of the bay, Empress Veshra stood waiting. She was a vision of deadly elegance, her exoskeleton glimmering under the dim lights. Her height, a foot above Captain Harper, made her presence all the more intimidating. The patterning on her body shifted slightly, like a living tapestry, and her golden eyes fixed on him as he approached. She was not adorned with a crown or robes of royalty. She did not need them. Her power was evident in the way she carried herself, in the silent command she exuded. "You came." Her voice was smooth, but it held an edge of challenge. "I gave my word," Captain Harper replied, his tone unwavering. A faint smirk appeared on her lips, and she nodded once, acknowledging his courage. "Perhaps there is some honor in your species after all," she said before turning and leading him through massive organic doors that opened to reveal the arena. The arena was vast and circular, its walls alive with the hum of energy. The floor beneath them was smooth, almost glass-like, reflecting the eerie blue light that bathed the chamber. Around the arena, the Vorkan warriors watched, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. The air was thick with the weight of the moment. Harper could feel every gaze on him, every warrior studying him as if he were nothing more than a curiosity. Empress Veshra stepped into the center of the arena and turned to face him. Her voice echoed across the room. "This is the trial of dominion. The duel where only the strongest survives. There are no weapons, no tricks, only raw skill and strength." She spread her arms wide, as if to demonstrate the rules of the battle. "Do you still accept, human?" Harper's gaze never wavered. "I already told you. I don't back down," he said, his voice calm, but with a fire that was unmistakable. The Queen's eyes gleamed with amusement, but there was something else in her gaze now. Respect. She had not expected this kind of stubborn defiance. "Then let the battle begin," she announced, and the arena came alive with the roar of anticipation from the surrounding warriors. In an instant, the battle began. Empress Veshra was lightning fast. In the blink of an eye, she closed the distance between them, her claws slashing through the air toward his throat. Harper barely dodged, the wind from her strike grazing his skin. He rolled to the side, using his agility to avoid her next strike. But Veshra was relentless. She followed with a flurry of blows, each strike fast and precise, intended to overwhelm him. Captain Harper fought with everything he had. He dodged, sidestepped, and blocked where he could. His body ached as the sheer force of her blows reverberated through him, but he didn't allow himself to falter. He had faced impossible odds before, and this time would be no different. The key to survival wasn't just physical strength. It was the ability to adapt, to learn from every attack, every movement. As Veshra lunged again, Harper noticed something. A pattern. She always led with her right hand. Her attacks were powerful, but there was a rhythm to them. If he could predict her next move, he might have a chance to land a hit. And so he did. As she advanced, he twisted his body just in time to avoid her strike and countered with a sharp elbow to her ribs. The impact was small, but it made her step back. For a moment, the arena fell silent. The Vorkan warriors murmured in surprise. A human had landed a hit on their queen. Captain Harper could feel their eyes on him, their disbelief palpable. But he knew this was only the beginning. If he could force her to retreat, even for a moment, he could use the opportunity to get into her head, to test her weaknesses. But Veshra was not easily rattled. She tilted her head slightly, studying him, and for the first time, her smirk faded. "Interesting," she murmured, almost as if she were impressed. "You learn quickly." Then, without warning, she attacked again, faster this time. Harper had barely time to react. He threw himself backward, narrowly escaping the deadly swipe of her claws. The air around them crackled with tension as she closed in once more, faster and more furious than before. The Vorkan warriors watched with rapt attention. They had seen countless duels, but never one like this. Never had a human shown such resilience, such determination in the face of certain death. They had expected their queen to annihilate this insignificant human in moments, but instead, they were witnessing something entirely unexpected. The humans weren't just fighters, they were survivors, and that was something the Vorkan Dominion hadn't anticipated. Harper's thoughts cleared as the battle raged on. He couldn't keep up with her speed, not in pure strength, not in sheer reflexes, but he had learned something vital. Strength wasn't everything. He had already landed a blow on her once, and he could do it again. The key wasn't to overpower her, it was to outthink her. With renewed focus, Captain Harper started to change his tactics. Instead of reacting to every blow, he started anticipating her next move. He began to notice the patterns in her strikes. She always favored her right side when attacking. She always overextended when she launched her most powerful blows. Her speed, while impressive, was based on predictable rhythms. As Veshra lunged again, Harper didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped forward, closing the distance between them. This move caught her off guard. As her claws slashed toward him, he ducked and struck with everything he had, landing a solid blow to her exposed shoulder joint. The impact wasn't enough to bring her down, but it was enough to make her pause for just a fraction of a second. It was a weakness, and now Harper knew how to exploit it. Veshra staggered back, her eyes flashing with something close to fury. "You are not like the others," she muttered, her voice low. "But it won't matter." Captain Harper didn't answer. He was breathing heavily, his body battered and bruised, but his resolve had never been stronger. He had found her weakness, and now he was going to press it. His mind raced as he formulated his next move, analyzing every detail of her movements. Every mistake she made, every opening, would be his chance to win. But Veshra was no fool. She had underestimated the human spirit once, and now she would not make that mistake again. With a growl, she launched herself at him with even more speed, her claws flashing like twin blades. The crowd of Vorkan warriors gasped as they watched the duel unfold. Captain Harper, battered and bloody, was still standing, still fighting. It was clear now. He wasn't going to give up. This human was determined to win. As Veshra advanced once more, Harper stepped forward again, using his opponent's aggression against her. He sidestepped, barely dodging a lethal strike to his head. And then he struck. This time, not with power, but with precision. His fist landed once more on her weakened shoulder, and this time, he felt something crack beneath the impact. The arena fell silent. For the first time, Empress Veshra was forced to retreat. Captain Harper's heart pounded in his chest as he stood over his opponent, who now staggered back, visibly shaken. He had done it. He had landed a critical blow. The Vorkan warriors watched in stunned silence. The queen, a being who had crushed civilizations, was now forced to retreat. Harper had just made the fight personal, but now he knew that he had a real chance to win. The stakes had never been higher. With Earth's future hanging in the balance, Captain Dylan Harper was about to face the most dangerous moment of his life, and he would not back down. Captain Dylan Harper stood in the center of the arena, his breath ragged, his body battered and bruised. The pain from his wounds was almost unbearable, yet he refused to let it show. The Vorkan queen, Empress Veshra, staggered a few paces back, her once pristine armor now marred by the marks of battle. For the first time since the duel began, she hesitated. The arena was silent, the Vorkan warriors watching in stunned silence. They had never seen their queen falter, not once. But there she was, retreating, a rare admission that she had met her match. Captain Harper had done the unthinkable. He had forced the queen to retreat, and in doing so, he had done what no one thought was possible. He had proven that humanity was not just resilient, but capable of standing up to one of the galaxy's most feared empires. His tactic had been simple: outthink and outlast. The Vorkan Dominion relied on brute strength and speed, but humanity relied on strategy and adaptability. But as the silence stretched on, Harper's mind began to race. He had learned to exploit the queen's weakness, but there was something else he had not anticipated. Empress Veshra was not like the others he had faced. She was not just a conqueror. She was a ruler, a tactician, and in the heat of battle, she had shown signs of respect. And something deeper. It was clear now that she had not underestimated him. She had been testing him. Veshra's golden eyes, once filled with anger, now held a glint of something far more dangerous: curiosity. Her lips curled into a faint smile, one that sent a shiver down Harper's spine. She wasn't done yet. The queen, it seemed, had more to say. "You are an unexpected adversary, human," she said, her voice smooth and calm. "I did not expect you to force me back. Most species have fallen in moments before me, but you are different." She took a step closer, her piercing gaze never leaving Harper's. "This battle has shown me something I did not anticipate, a human capable of standing up to me. But I wonder," she paused, as if considering her next words carefully, "are you truly the warrior I have been waiting for, or are you simply a fleeting challenge?" Harper's fists clenched, but he held his ground. He had come this far. He wasn't about to back down now. "I told you before, I don't break easily," he said, his voice steady, though his body screamed in pain. "I'm here for Earth. I fight for humanity." Veshra tilted her head slightly, as if genuinely intrigued by his words. Yes, she mused, humanity. A species so small, so fragile, yet so persistent. She took another step forward, her gaze never leaving his. "You fight for your planet. But I wonder, Captain Harper, what if there is a different way? What if this battle doesn't have to end in the death of one of us?" Harper's heart skipped a beat. There was something about her words, something in the way she spoke that made him uneasy. This wasn't a request to surrender. It was a proposal, and Captain Harper knew that whatever came next, it would be the defining moment of the duel, and perhaps of Earth's future. Empress Veshra took another step closer, her figure towering over Harper. She no longer seemed like a conqueror, but rather like someone offering a deal. A choice. "I have seen you fight, and I respect your strength. You have shown me that you are more than just a soldier. You are a leader." She paused, her eyes narrowing with a hint of something darker, something dangerous. "I offer you a choice, human, one that no species before you has ever received." Captain Harper's brow furrowed. He wasn't about to fall for another mind game, not after everything he had been through. He took a deep breath, his pulse quickening. "What choice are you talking about?" he asked, his voice cautious but firm. Veshra's smile widened. "You have earned my respect, Captain Harper," she said, her voice soft but filled with authority. "You are not like the others I have conquered. You think differently, you fight differently. I could easily crush you, but instead, I offer you something more." She straightened, her posture commanding, almost regal. "Join me. Stand by my side, and you will have more than just survival. You will have power. You will be more than a warrior. You will be a leader. Together, we can rule the galaxy." Captain Harper's mind raced. He had fought with everything he had to protect Earth. He had risked everything in this duel to prove humanity's strength. And now, The Queen of the Vorkan Dominion was offering him the chance to stand beside her, to join her empire. The temptation was there: power, influence, a chance to guide the future of the galaxy. It was a far cry from the desolation that Earth would face under the Dominion's rule. But what would it mean for humanity, for Earth? He could already hear the voices of his crew, his friends, his family, warning him of the dangers of such an alliance. He had never been one to back down from a fight, and he certainly wasn't going to submit now, no matter the offer. Earth depended on his resolve. He couldn't, he wouldn't, betray his people. Harper shook his head slowly, his voice low but steady. "I didn't come here to join you," he said, his words firm and resolute. "I came to defend Earth, to fight for humanity. And I'm not going to trade that for power. Earth will remain free, no matter what you offer." Veshra's expression hardened, the amusement fading from her face. "So, you refuse?" she asked, her tone colder now. Her golden eyes locked onto him, calculating, assessing. "You are a fool, human. You could have been great, but instead, you choose to fight for nothing." Captain Harper didn't flinch. "I fight for humanity," he repeated, his voice unwavering. "And that's everything." For a long moment, there was silence in the arena. The Vorkan warriors watched, their eyes filled with disbelief. No one had ever rejected the Queen's offer before. The concept was foreign to them. To them, power was the ultimate prize, and to join the Dominion was the only path to survival. But Harper had rejected it. He had chosen to stay loyal to Earth, to his people, even if it meant facing the full might of the Vorkan Dominion. Veshra studied him silently, her eyes piercing as she weighed his response. Finally, she spoke, her voice cold but filled with something akin to respect. "Very well, human," she said. "You have made your choice." She turned away, her form regally imposing as she walked towards her throne. "But know this, you have earned my respect. And in the future, you may find that the choices you make are not as simple as you think. The galaxy is not what it seems." Captain Harper stood his ground, watching her carefully, his mind still racing. He had refused her offer, but he could feel the weight of her words. This was not the end of their conflict, it was only the beginning. Veshra might have offered him a choice, but now that the decision had been made, the war for Earth's future was far from over. The arena erupted in murmurs as the Vorkan warriors exchanged uncertain glances. Captain Harper had just made a bold move, one that would shape the destiny of humanity. The real battle was just beginning. As the echoes of the Queen's footsteps faded, Harper turned to face the future, knowing one thing for certain. Earth would not bow to the Dominion. Not today, not ever. And he would fight until the very last breath to ensure that. The story closed on a tense note, but the question remained: would Captain Dylan Harper be able to protect Earth from the growing threat of the Vorkan Dominion, or would the choices he had made today come back to haunt him? The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity's fight was far from over.